Hello, from wherever you're joining me, whatever time it is for you. I'm going to dive straight in. So, looking through the Talmud, probably the Steinslatz edition, and today's Daf is Daf 35. So, Uchsev v'tikach v'tzpor vas aya es hasak v'tehu lo el hasur b'chinas Chatzir. As it is written, and Mitzpah, daughter of Aya, took sackcloth and spread it upon the rock, and from the beginning of the harvest until water was poured upon them from heaven, and she suffered neither the birds of the air to rest on them by day, nor the beasts of the field by night. And that's from a pasuk in Tush Samuel 21:10. It's clear from this verse that the bodies of the children of Saul remain exposed outdoors. Presumably they were hung. The Gemara discusses the incident of the Israelites who worshipped the idol of Peor in the wilderness, as it is written, and the Lord said unto Moses, take all the chiefs of the people and hang them unto the Lord facing the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. In Numbers 25:4. The Gemara asks, if the nation transgressed, what does it mean if the nation transgressed? A footnote here. Ha'om chatu v'chulu. There's an opinion according to the Mishnah that the chiefs of the tribes were punished for not protesting the actions of the sinners. And then we even note that even if that is the case, such a punishment would come only by the hand of God, not by an earthly court. In what manner did the chiefs of the people transgress? The verse does not record transgression of the chiefs, so why were they punished? Amarav Yehuda Amarav. The reason for selecting the chiefs of the tribes was not to punish them. Well, the Holy best be, he says to Moses, apportion courts for the chief of the tribes, and each court would judge and punish the transgressors of its tribe. So it's to make a separate court, and the transgressors of each tribe will be punished by these separate court divisions which are set up. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason multiple courts were needed for this? If we say this due to principle that a court is not just two cases of capital on one day, and there were many cases to be judged, that cannot be the reason. But doesn't have history to say this principle is taught with regard to two different types of death imposed by a court, as each case needs sufficient time to be fully investigated until merits. But the court does not judge multiple cases of one type of death. So you put it out here. Misa achas dinon. One court does not live two verdicts of the court impose capital punishment in one day. The exception to this principle is where two people commit identical transgressions to carry identical punishments, in accordance with the statements of Rav Hista. Rambam Sefer Shoftim Hilchot Sanhedrin 14:10. Someone transgressed on the same day. The Gemara explains. But the reason for the appointment of multiple courts was in order that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. The fierce anger of God would remain until those engaged in idol worship were punished. Therefore, it is necessary to try them in due haste. The Mishnah teaches, in case of punishment, the court may conclude the deliberation of issue ruling even on that same day, whether to exempt the accused or to find them liable. In case of capital, the court may conclude the deliberation and issue the ruling even on that same day to acquit the accused, but must wait until the following day to find them liable. From where these matters derive? Rav Hanina said, the verse states prophetically concerning Jerusalem after the destruction of the first temple. She that was full of justice, righteousness lodged in her. The halacha of waiting overnight before rendering a verdict stated only with regard to cases of capital law, alluded to in the verse by the verse, but now murderers. Alternatively, it states several different verses earlier, your hands are full of blood, Isaiah 1:15, but now murderers, Isaiah 1:21. The verse associates lodging or waiting overnight with justice. And the Rava says, his master's right from learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve, ashru, They oppress Hamas, Isaiah 1:17. This interpreted praise, Ashru. The judge who delays Muhammad's his verdict before he pronounces it. A judge should not issue a verdict until all aspects of the case are clear to him. Roman Sefer Shevden Hilchot Sanhedrin 27, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 10:1. And another Amora, Rabbi Hanina, who did not derive this halacha from this verse, as meaning relieve the robbery victim, Hamas, but not the robber, Homet, as do the wicked judges. The Gemara asks, and the other Amora, Rava, what does he do with this verse? That she was full, righteous lodge in her, but now murderers. The Gemara answers, Rav interprets it in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Elazar says that Rabbi Yitzchak says. Elazar says Rabbi Yitzchak says every fast day on which the distribution of charity tzedakah is left overnight. The Gemara in Tractate Baruch 6b states the primary reward for fasting is for giving charity to the poor on the fast day. The poor would expect to receive food at the close of the fast and will not prepare food on their own. When the poor rely on charity collected on a fast day to provide the meal to break the fast, the charity must be distributed without delay. This applies only to food that is ready to eat, but not to money or raw ingredients. That's the Rambam Sefer Zeroim, Yochel Matanas Einayim 9:4, Shulchan Aruch Yodeh 6:2. This is considered as if one spilled the blood of the poor people as they fasted all day in the expectation that they would receive charity before the day was over in order to purchase food in which to break their fast. As is stated, she that was full of justice, Tzedek, righteousness lodged in her, but now murderers. The Gemara clarifies. And this statement applies with regard to the delaying of the distribution of bread and dates, which are ready to be consumed. But with regard to the delaying of the distribution of money, wheat and barley, we have no problem with it. Under teaching that in case of capital law, the verdict may not be issued on the same day as deliberations, the Mishnah states, therefore the court does not judge. The court does not judge case of capital on Shabbat Eve, lest this result in delay of the verdict. In the Jerusalem Talmud it says that the practice is also not to judge case of monetary law on Shabbat Eve. I'm Sefer Shoftim Hilchot Sanhedrin 11:2. Cases of capital law on certain days, neither on either Shabbat nor the eve of a festival. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for this? What is the halacha that the verdict may not be issued on the same day as the deliberations have to do with not judging cases on those days? The Gemara explains, it is because it is not possible to conduct a trial on the eve of Shabbat or the eve of a festival, and as how should we act? If we say that we should judge him on Shabbat Eve and conclude his verdict on Shabbat Eve, perhaps we would see a reason to find the accused liable. And in this situation, the court is required to perform a suspension of the trial until the following day, as the court may not issue a verdict in capital cases on the same day as the deliberations. If we say we should judge him on Shabbat Eve and conclude the verdict on Shabbat, although no court case may be judged on Shabbat due to a concern that the scribes may write the opinions of the judge and debate 36b, the Gemara here is explaining that the case of capital law would not be judged even without that rabbinic decree. And if he is found liable, kill him on Shabbat. That cannot be done, as the murder the mitzvah of the court to administer court-imposed capital punishment does not override Shabbat. I'm Sefer Shevdim Hilchot Sanhedrin 11:2 and Sefer Zemanim Hilchot Shabbat 24:7. Of one liable to receive court-imposed punishment does not override Shabbat. So he said that if we say we should kill him at night, after the conclusion of Shabbat, this cannot be done, as we require that the capital punishment be administered facing the sun during the daytime. And if we say we should judge him on Shabbat Eve, conclude his verdict on Shabbat, and kill him on Sunday, if you are found to have caused a delay in his verdict, contracting, the prohibition of delaying a verdict is due to the suffering of the one found liable. The mitzvah of you shall love your neighbor as yourself in Leviticus 19:18 applies even with regard to one condemned to death, see 45a. And they'll explain that once a court has found someone liable to receive the death penalty, they have a mitzvah to kill him without delay, to fulfill the verse stated several times in Deuteronomy, so that you should put away the evil from your midst. Magaliyat Hayam. And the accuser have to wait overnight, knowing that he is condemned to death. And if we say we should judge him on Shabbat, even conclude the verdict on Sunday, the judge will forget their reasons for their positions in the interim. And even though two judges' scribes are standing before them, and they write the statements of those who acquit the accused and the statements of those who find liable, and they write that which emerges from the mouth of the judge, i.e. the tentative verdict, the hearts of the people, and Nashe are forgetful, Inshe. Sometimes like the Gemara adds the hearts of people, which it carries essentially the same meaning in Marsha. And they forget the reason. Therefore, it is not possible in deliberations in cases of capital law on Shabbat Eve or festival Eve. The Gemara discusses the related matter. When Klaka said Rabbi Yochanan, and the burial of a corpse with no one to bury it makes mitzvah, it is an important religious obligation to take part in the burial of the dead. If this is no acquaintance or relative to bury him, everyone is obligated to assist in his burial in halacha. And of course, with no one available to bury it acquires its place. Of course, it is interred where it is found. Nevertheless, when the place is not an honorable location, the corpse is buried in the nearest cemetery. Religious duty is so important that even priests and others who are ordinarily prohibited from coming into contact with a corpse may bury a made mitzvah. There is no one else available to do this. Likewise, the obligation to bury the corpse takes precedence over nearly all other religious obligations. Most by meaning of authority influence. If, with regard to the temple services override Shabbat, official rites that have a fixed time to be performed override Shabbat, for this reason, we need to offer the daily offerings and the additional offerings as well as the additional offerings of festivals when they come Shabbat. The priests perform all the attendant rites of these offerings even on Shabbat. Ram Sefer Vod Huchat Beit HaMikdash 4:9-10. Yet, the burial remains overridden based on the interpretation of the term written with regard to a Nazarite or for his sister, Numbers 6-7. The Gemara poses its recounting of the question of Reish Lakish and cites a brayta that teaches halacha. And he taught the brayta, the verse states with regard to a Nazarite, all the days that he consecrates himself unto the Lord, he should not come near to a dead body, he should not make himself impure for his father, or for his mother, or for his brother, or for his sister, and when they die in Numbers 6-7. Why must the verse state all these relatives? It teaches if a Nazarite was going to slaughter his paschal offering or circumcise his son, and he heard that a relative of his died, one might have thought that he should return and become impure with the impurity imparted by a corpse to bury his relative. You said he should not make himself impure. The death of his relative will not override the mitzvah from the Torah. And one might have thought, just he may not become impure to bury his sister, so he may not become impure to bury a maid mitzvah. Therefore, the verse says specifically, or for his sister. The logical derivation from the verse is as follows. The verse states concerning the Nazarite, he shall not make himself impure for his father, or for his mother, or for his brother, or for his sister, when he died, because his consecration to God is upon his head, Numbers 6-7. If the verse states that Nazarite may become impure to bury a parent, it need not state that he may not become impure to bury a sibling. These additional examples are therefore viewed as limiting the scope of his prohibition, teaching that although he may not become impure to bury a relative, he may become impure to bury a maid mitzvah. Teaching that he may not become impure only to bury his sister, as well as content to bury, but he may become impure to bury a maid mitzvah. Mitama and a maid mitzvah. I'm the commandment to bury a maid mitzvah. A priest or Nazarite, the fact you're confident impurity imparted by a cult in doing so. Even by burying a maid mitzvah, one will be unable to perform different mitzvah. If one is significant sacrifice the paschal offering or circumcise his son on the 8th day, he should bury a maid mitzvah. Ram Sefer Shoftim Huchat Evel 3a Shulchan Aruch Yodei 374:1. Having cited the brayta proving that the burial of the maid mitzvah overrides the temple service, Reish Lakish continues his suggestion because Shabbat, which is overridden due to temple service, is not logical that the burial maid mitzvah overrides it. So just as the temple service overrides Shabbat, So surely a mace mitzvah should also override Shabbat. The Rabbi Yochanan said in the halacha of murder, i.e. the obligation to kill one found liable to the court and impose capital punishment, proves that this is not the case, as it overrides the temple service, e.g. if the only priest present is liable to receive court-imposed capital punishment, he is taken to be killed despite this resulting in negation of the temple service, but does not override Shabbat. The Gemara asks, murder itself should override Shabbat based on a list of fortiori influence. Just as with regard to the temple service should override Shabbat, nevertheless murder overrides it, and the source for this is as it is stated, and if a man come presumptively upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. Exodus 21:14. The Gemara in Tractate Yoman 85a teaches that the phrase from my altar indicates that if the murderer is a priest and comes to perform the service, one does not wait for him to do so, but takes him to the execution immediately. But one should not take him from on top of the altar. In other words, if he already began the service and is in the midst of it, one does not take him down from the altar immediately, but instead allow him to finish his service. With the additional halacha that one who is on the altar cannot be taken to be killed, but that might apply to one deemed liable to be killed by a king, not by a court system. Regarding Shabbat, which is overridden due to the temple service, is not logical that the murder should override it. Rabbi said in response, it had already been ruled by a Tana of the school of Rabbi Shmuel, and the school of Rabbi Shmuel taught, what is the meaning when the verse states, you shall kindle no fire throughout your habitation on Shabbat day, Exodus 35:3. All labor is forbidden on Shabbat, based on the verse, in it shall you not do any manner of work, Exodus 20:10. Why is kindling a fire singled out? The Gemara interjects, what is the meaning when the verse states this? If this question is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, this transgression was singled out to teach that one who lights a fire on Shabbat violates an ordinary prohibition, as opposed to the performance of other types of labor on Shabbat, for which one is liable to receive court-imposed capital punishment. If this question is according to the opinion of Rabbi Natan, this transgression was singled out to divide the various labors and to establish liability to receive court-imposed capital punishment for the performance of any of them. The Gemara explains, as it is taught in the Bible, the kindling of fire was singled out to teach that one who lights a fire on Shabbat violates an ordinary prohibition. The same Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Nassan said it was singled out to divide the various labors. Either way, it's clear what the meaning of the verse is. The Gemara clarifies. Well, the Rabbi said the term habitation in the verse poses a difficulty for the Tana. What is the meaning when the verse states, you shall kindle no fire throughout your habitation on Shabbat? After all, Shabbat is an obligation on the person himself, not an obligation bound to any specific location. And the halacha is that an obligation on the person himself is practiced whether in Eretz Yisrael or outside of Eretz Yisrael. Why do I need the term habitations that the medicine one writes in the Torah? Rav Sadi Gaon explains that the straightforward meaning of the verse is that one might have thought that the prohibition against preparing food on Shabbat applied only in the wilderness, where the Jewish people were given the manna, and the Jewish people were commanded to observe the Shabbat in the context of gathering the manna. Exodus 16:26-29, but not once they entered Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, the verse emphasizes that the prohibition applies everywhere. Rava continues, one student said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel that since it is stated, and if there is a man, then Fisha Nema Ki Yev Ish Goy. Although there are other verses in the Bible that discuss the punishment of a murder, the Bible has selected this passage since it also discusses the obligation to bury the dead. And the verse states, his body should not remain all night upon the tree, and you shall bury him the same day. Deuteronomy 21:22. Therefore, it is appropriate to derive the halacha of burial by mitzvah from this passage. Yehuda, a sin deserving of death, and he is put to death. Deuteronomy 21:22. I would derive that the court administers capital punishment both during the week and on Shabbat. And accordingly, how do I realize the meaning of what the verse states concerning Shabbat? Everyone that disgraces shall be put to death. In 31:14, one possibility is that the term disgracing of Shabbat applies only to other cases in which labor is performed and excludes instances of the death penalty administered by a court, which is not a desecration of Shabbat. Or rather derive that even the death penalty administered by a court is prohibited as a desecration of Shabbat. And how do I realize the meaning of and he is put to death? One possibility is that the mitzvah of executing transgressors applies on weekdays but not Shabbat, or rather the possibility that it applies even on Shabbat. As these verses can be interpreted in either manner, the verse states, "You shall kindle no fire throughout your habitation on Shabbat day." And there, with regard to the punishment administered to a murderer, the verse states, "And these shall be for you a statute of judgment throughout your generations in all your habitations." Numbers 35:29. Just the term habitations that is stated there is referring to the act of a court. So to the term habitations that is stated here concerning Shabbat is referring to an act of a court. And the merciful one states, "You shall kindle no fire throughout your habitation," to teach that the court does not administer capital punishment on Shabbat. Rabbi says, now that you have said that the murder of one condemned by the court does not override Shabbat, one should say that murder does not override the performance of the temple service either based on authority or influence. And just as regards Shabbat, which is overridden by the performance of the temple service, murder does not override it. Then with regard to the performance of the temple service override Shabbat, it's not logical that murder should not override it. The Gemara questions this inference, but if so, how would one explain that which is written in the verse concerning one liable to receive the court-imposed capital punishment? "You shall take him from my altar that he may die." Verse 21:14. This verse indicates that the court administering capital punishment does not override the performance of the temple service. The Gemara explains that verse serves to teach the halacha concerning an offering of an individual, Kavan Yachid. The Torah mandates a wide range of offerings to be sacrificed on different occasions. Communal offerings are brought by the priest on behalf of the people on a daily basis, on Shabbat and festival, and to atone for national transgressions. There is a much greater variety with regard to offerings brought by an individual. An individual might be obligated to bring a sin offering or guilt offering upon transgressing certain prohibitions by Torah law, or he might be moved to donate a peace offering in gratitude for a personal salvation. Many offerings are also brought as a combination of various purification purposes. The Gemara teaches that offerings of an individual are not sacrificed in Shabbat, whereas communal offerings are, which is not override Shabbat. The verse is teaching that the court takes the priest to execute him, even if this will result in the offering of an individual not being sacrificed. Rava says, if that is so, one should not say that murder should not override even an offering of an individual based on authority influence. I hope this made sense. Short daf today, and I wish you success in all your endeavors. Take care. All the best. Bye.